Your message is important to us. Please hold. Your message is important to us. Please hold. Your message is important to us. Please hold.
Looking for great value home insurance? Don't go online for an anonymous corporation who takes your money and abandons you. Choose High House, your local insurance company. High House Insurance don't pay to be on comparison websites, so your premiums are better value. For a free, no-obligation quote, call 606 552. High House Insurance. Local, reliable insurance. High Street, Chelsea.
Manhood Internet Radio, the station that cares. Yes, that's us. And welcome back. In this week's programme, we've got Mike Nichols from The Bridge in Chelsea telling us about a new project that's going on there. We talked to Anna Stein, also from Chelsea, and Anna's going to be running a music therapy class for people with dementia. We also have some gardening tips and a couple of recipes, a little bit of music, and of course our regular weekly look at what's going on in around the area in What's On. So without further ado, we'll get on with it. And we'll begin this week with the Witterings and Bracklesham. And on Monday the 18th there's short mat bowls at Bracklesham Barn, and that's from 10 to 2:30, and there's also the Little Duckling Mother and Toddler group from 9:30 to 11:30. On Tuesday the 19th there's meet and greet at West Wittering Memorial Hall from 10:15 to 1pm, and a community pop choir from 7 till 9pm. And also on the Tuesdays, and that's the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 8pm, the West Wittering Wives Club meet at the Memorial Hall. They're an informal group who have talks from a variety of speakers and occasional local trips out, and in-house entertainment. Not quite sure what that means, but there you go. New members are always welcome, and you don't even have to be a wife to join. And contact Mandy Goodall on 670 172. Now Wednesday there's a host of things happening today at the Bracklesham Barn. There's CBT motorcycle training from 9 until 11am, Slimming Well with Lorraine from 5:15 to 8:15pm, and Zumba with Louise from 6:30 to 7:30, and there are quite a few other things going on there as well. And also on Wednesday the 20th there's a coffee morning in aid of St Wilfrid's Hospice at Russell's Garden Centre, and this is from 10 till 11:30am. And in the evening at the Royal British Legion from 7 till 9 we've got line dancing. On Thursday the 21st there's the Knit and Natter Club, and that's from 10:30 till 12:30 at the East Wittering Library. On Friday the 22nd there's short mat bowls at Bracklesham Barn from 2 till 4, and on Saturday the 23rd St Anne's Church Burns Night in the Village Hall at East Wittering, and that's from 7pm and at a cost of £20, which includes a 4-course supper. So that's not bad at all, is it? And if you'd like to be involved in that, you can contact Sue Wiltshire on 671 056. And we go across to Chelsea now and have a look at what's on over there. And on Tuesday the 19th you've got the Ace Poker League at the Fisherman's Joy from 7:30pm. Now it only costs £1 for admin to play in that, and you go along and you play and you build up points towards a grand final where you can win some significant cash prizes. On Wednesday the 20th there's Jump for Joy for the under 5s at the Chelsea Centre from 9:30 until 11, and that's £3 a session, and refreshments are available. On Thursday the 21st the National Blood Service at the Chelsea Centre from 2 until 7:45pm. So go down there, give blood. You never know when you might need it. There's also a dance club for children from the age of 5 and upwards at the Chelsea Centre from 5 till 6:45, and that's for £5 per class. On Friday the 22nd, the U3A are meeting at the Chelsea Centre, and they've got a guest speaker, and that's Simon Brett, a local author, and he'll be there from 2:30pm. On Saturday the 23rd, there's a drawing day at the Chelsea Centre from 10 until 4, with artist Anita Beckwith. Now materials are all provided, and all you need is a sketchbook and the fee of £20. And also on Saturday the 23rd, the RSPB down at Pagham Harbour Nature Reserve, they've got their Big Garden Birdwatch. So you can go down there and prepare for the Big Garden Birdwatch, which is at the end of the month, by making bird feeders to take away and by learning about the birds that you're most likely to see. And this will make your count a little bit easier, and it will be helping the birds in your garden. And that's from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. It's a drop-in session, and that's £3 per child and £1.50 for members. On Monday the 24th, there's ringcraft training for both handler and dog to prepare for the show ring, and also to socialise puppies with well-mannered dogs. And this is held at the Selsey Centre from 7:30 until 9:30 p.m. and the first week is free, and then the fees are £2 a week for one dog and an extra 50p if you've got an additional dog. And that's it for this week. Now, just to remind you that, of course, these courses are all run by individuals outside of the venues. So they're not run by the venues themselves. And just in case you're in any doubt as to whether the one you're going to will be happening this week, just give them a call to make certain if you're in any doubt, and then that way you won't be disappointed when you get there. On Friday, I went across to our studio at the Bridge in Selsey to chat to a young lady called Anna Stein. Now, Anna's going to be starting on the 19th of January a series of workshops using music for therapy with people with dementia. And I thought that it was some newfangled idea that was coming out until I did a little bit of homework, and I realised then that treatment of dementia by use of musical therapy dates back at least 2,000 years. But anyway, Anna, can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so the group's called Mindful Music Making, and it's a new community group, and it's aimed at people living with dementia and their carers. So it's designed to be an activity that they can take part in together. And it will be a music therapy session followed by a coffee and chat time. So the music therapy session will hopefully be of benefit to the people living with dementia, and there may be things, they might have remembered things, they might be a bit more aware after playing music, and so the carers will be able to chat with them afterwards and spend time just really hopefully reaping the awards of those benefits.
I mean, obviously, music brings back memories for all of us, even us that have not got dementia. But it does, if you hear a piece of music you haven't heard for many years, you can straight away think of where you were when you first heard it. So I can understand how that works. But what other benefits would it have to, or how does it work for people with dementia?
Well, yeah, you're right. Music can instantly transport us back to a time in our life, and it can also stir up quite strong emotions with us. And people who are living with dementia can sometimes find it difficult to express themselves. They can find it difficult to find the right words to say what they want to. So making music is really a way of communicating. If you give someone a drum, they can play it, and the way they play it is going to be reflective of how they're feeling. If they're feeling quite angry, they're probably going to play it fast and loud, and if they're feeling quite sad, they might play it slowly and quietly. So the way that we play music helps us to express ourselves, and that is something that can be really helpful for people living with dementia. You mentioned memory, and people who are in the later stages of dementia may not be able to remember very much at all, but if you play them a song, they may be able to sing all the words to a song from an earlier time, so it can be really helpful to stirring up memories for a lot of people. And another benefit of playing music is that it's a really social thing to do. If you're in a group and you're singing together or you're playing instruments together, you've got an immediate connection with the people around you, and that can be really beneficial. It's a way of connecting people with dementia with other people living with dementia, and it's also a way of connecting or reconnecting carers with their loved ones. And so there are really many benefits of playing music.
Well, being a singer that rehearses at home, I think my neighbour, bless her, might argue the point about the music being good for communicating. She often communicates that I should shut up. But no, I understand fully what you say. And of course, one of the biggest things for people with dementia is the frustration of not being able to communicate what they're trying to get across. And people don't know, unless they actually show great anger, people don't know that they're just a little bit upset today, they're a little bit miffed about something, because they find it difficult to communicate it. So playing a guitar and strumming it gently as opposed to strumming it quite violently would indicate straight away how that person's feeling today, even though they may not be able to communicate verbally.
That's right, and sometimes people living with dementia can be, it can be tempting to encourage them to be quiet and not to be in any trouble, but like you say, there can be some really strong feelings that aren't able to be communicated or expressed, and so playing music is an outlet to allow people to express those feelings in a safe environment and in a safe way, but to be able to express something which otherwise might become quite pent up and really quite frustrating.
Absolutely. Now, is this the first time you've entered into this, or is it? I mean, I know you're qualified to do it, but is it the first thing of its type that you've taken upon?
So, as you say, I'm a qualified music therapist, and I've worked with lots of different groups of people with music in lots of different ways, but this is my first venture into working with people with dementia, and I live in the community here in Selsey, and I was really keen to do something in the community where I'm living, and because we have quite a big elderly population here, I thought it would be a good way to add to the community.
Absolutely, absolutely. I noticed the way you looked at John and I when you said about the elderly community. We'll tell it. Now, can the carers take part in this? So, quite often these people that come along with their carers, can they take part in it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really hoping that this will be something that carers can do with their loved ones with dementia. So it really depends on who comes along and how the dementia is affecting them and what stage of dementia that they're at. But it may be that carers might support the people they come with to play instruments. It may be that they might just join in and play and sing themselves. Of course, it's fine if they would rather not, but they will be encouraged very much to be part of the session.
Okay. Now, what happens at a music therapy session? Do you just say, well, there's a guitar, strum on that, so let's see how you're feeling today, or is there a different angle to it?
So music therapy takes place in lots of different forms in lots of different places, but this group will kind of have two different parts to it. It will partly be spontaneous music making, so people will be encouraged to choose an instrument and just to play, and that may sound rather chaotic, but the skill of the music therapist is to bring together what people are doing to make something cohesive of it, to help people to interact with each other. So I will often play the keyboard while people are playing to provide some kind of an accompaniment to make some sense of what's happening. And the music therapist will encourage the group to communicate with each other, so there may be a time of turn taking to encourage people to listen to each other and to connect with each other. So that will be part of the session, and the other part of the session will be singing familiar songs, so people might have song requests, or we might develop some repertoire that people in the group like to sing together, and that's, as we said earlier, really great for memory.
Yes. I could do with some of that because I have to learn new songs all the time and I really struggle. And yet a song from 50 years ago I can remember word for word. And I think, that goes for most people. They forget things that are relatively new and can remember things from a long way back.
You're right, and one of the wonderful things about music is that when somebody has lost most of their memory, they can often still remember music, and there's something about music that it stays in our brain, and it's one of the last things that we forget. So it's a really great way of tapping into someone's personality and giving them something meaningful to do, even if they're struggling to take part in a lot of day-to-day activities.
People that sometimes become introvert and don't want to contact people can be brought out of themselves by the use of music. All of a sudden you'll sit them in a room and you'll see them start singing along to a piece of music they recognise, where they might sat in that room for an hour and not spoken to anybody.
You're right, when someone's living with dementia in particular, it can become very isolating because it can be very difficult to interact with people. But as humans, we are so inherently musical, it comes so naturally to us. You only have to think of the heartbeat, which gives you a tempo, or the way we speak, which the intonation is like a melody, and it's so natural to us that somebody who finds it hard to respond to speaking can sometimes really easily communicate through music.
Absolutely. Now I understand you're looking for a volunteer to help you. the group?
I am, yeah. It would be really great for me to have someone to help with the practical things, really, just for setting up and making teas and coffees. But if anyone out there is interested in music therapy, then it would also be nice if I could train someone to help me to run the group.
And would that person necessarily need to be musically talented in any way? You know, would it be preferable if they could play a guitar or a mouth organ or whatever?
Actually, they don't have to be musical. I mean, obviously it would be great if they were, but it's more about being really sensitive to who's there that day and to what they're doing, to seeing who might want to be passed a different instrument. So just anybody that's interested, really.
I mean, it occurs to me that people that, if you've got all those people together playing musical instruments that can't play them, somebody that's absolutely stone deaf would probably be your best bet. I jest and I shouldn't. Now, we know when the group's going to start. It's going to start on the 19th of January and it's going to be weekly, monthly?
Yeah, the group's going to take place every week.
Every week?
And people will pay on the day, so they may like to come along every week, or they may prefer just to dip in and out.
Yeah, okay, fine. And what's it going to cost? Because people want to know that, of course.
It's going to cost £4 per session. That's for the person that comes with dementia and the carer.
Okay, well that's fair enough, isn't it? That's quite reasonable. And how do people contact you?
If you'd like to book a place, or if you just want to find out more, then my phone number is 07912 609 437, or you can email me at musictherapy@steyn, that's steyn.me.uk.
Okay, well thank you very much for that, Anna. I hope you get loads of people down there, not too many because it's quite a small venue.
Yeah, just to say as well, if people do want to come along and they can book, that would be really good because I can only take a limited number of people. If you turn up on the day, you're welcome to join in if there's space, but there is a limited availability.
Okay, well thanks once again for coming in, and I'm sure you'll have more than you can cope with down there.
Thanks very much, and just a reminder that it's 2 o'clock till 3:30 on Tuesday afternoons.
Okay, brilliant.
And a big thank you to Anna there. There's a young lady that'd like to put something back into the community in which she lives, and I wish her very well with that. We're going over for another piece of music now. See if you remember this.
In the night there are sights to be seen, stars like jewels on the crown of a queen. But the only sight I wanna view is that wonderful picture of you on a streetcar or in the cafe, all of the evening and most of the day. My mind is in a maze, what can I do? I still see that picture of you. It was last summer, I fell in love. My heart told me what to do. I saw you there on the crest of a hill, and I took a little picture of you. Then you were gone like a dream in the night, with you in my heart, my love, and my life. I didn't know your name, what could I do? I only had a picture of you. And you were gone like a dream in the night, with you in my heart, my love, and my life. I didn't know your name, what could I do? I only had a picture of you. Oh yeah, that wonderful picture of you. I'm left with a picture of you. Oh yeah, that wonderful picture of you.
60s cheeky chappy Joe Brown there, of course. A very, very talented musician, I hasten to add. We go back to the bridge at the Academy now, and I talk to Mike Nichols.
And Mike's going to give us an update on a new project down at the bridge. Mike.
Thank you very much, Keith. Over the last 9 months, since the Youth Dream charity worked with other partners to open up the Bridge Youth Support Centre, we've been able to develop a range of activities and clubs and services and projects which have served the different needs of young people. One of the new projects that we're undertaking in 2016 has just been agreed, and I'm glad to just be able to say a word about it for everyone's knowledge. We're working with the Affinity Sutton Housing Association, who have a number of properties in the town, and they've invited us to join what is called their National Ambassadors Programme. Basically, this will mean that during this year we shall put together a team of about 10 young people. 2 of them will be in a leadership role. There'll be a youth worker overseeing what they're doing. And the purpose of putting this team together is partly about the development of the individual young people. So we shall link them up with a mentor, and they'll have a personal development plan, and do some training. So that's about their own developing confidence and sharing their gifts and talents and so on, discovering what they're capable of doing and relating to one another in the team. 2 of the young people will actually do a youth support worker qualification, and we hope that these young people will continue their work in places like Snack Shack and the Bridge in the long term. As a team, they will be thinking together about what they might like to do for the benefit of the town. So it might be, for instance, that they'll work with us on a project to develop an allotment, and we'll grow some stuff and then be able to learn how to cook it together. We're thinking about whether we might be able to offer some of our older friends help in a kind of gadget club, going to where they live and just giving them the opportunity of a little bit of instruction from young people in some bits of modern technology with their iPhone or their iPad or their
Well, I always go to my grandchildren because it seems to me the sensible way to go.
Yeah, well, they certainly know. We're also looking at planning summer holiday activities over the 6 weeks of the summer, so that we might join together in running the regular youth drop-in at the Selsey Centre. We might look at doing an art project or a theatre project or a whole range of possibilities. But the key thing is that this team will be sort of getting together to plan and work at things for the benefit of the community, and in that sense be ambassadors for the good things that young people can do, and at the same time develop their own life and skills for the longer term future.
Well, it sounds great to me, Mike. I mean, to get young people involved in what's good for the community, of course, is good for the community in itself. And they are very lucky in Selsey, in as much as there's lots of theatre stuff going on. You know, there's Cloud9, there's Sackhouse, there's all manner of stuff going on for youngsters. However, there may not be the kind of thing that they want, because we are a little bit out of the way, and you know, they don't always want to be stuck in Selsey, so they go to Chichester, which up to recently has cost them a few bob, but now I believe the bus company does a £2 night rider ticket, so they can go from here to Chichester and back for £2 after a certain time of night. So that's a step in the right direction for them as far as I'm concerned. But it is nice. It's nice for them to care about the community they live in. And of course, to get them to do that, the community's got to care about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It is a two-way thing. I mean, I think the aim of some of these summer projects is to help young people who'd like to learn some new skills or who'd like some experience in some of these areas. Because some of the young people may have left school and may not be in permanent employment, or may have finished college and are not sure what to do. And part of the project's aim is to build their confidence and to give them a bit of life direction in the future. And if the community can go on expressing its care for them, as I think they do well, then I think young people respond
We all need to work with them as much as they need to work with us. And it's something that perhaps doesn't happen coming from our direction.
Well, I think a lot is offered them in all sorts of ways, as you say, in the theatre and arts and in sport and in other ways. But I think one of the things that's happening under the leadership of the new head at the Academy School is a desire to build more links with the community and perhaps get more of our young people engaged in volunteering in different ways for local organisations and supporting and helping people in that kind of way.
Yeah, well, it'll be good to see. Now, I understand that you've been taking the assembly in the mornings this past week or so. Now, I'm sure that assemblies have changed since I was at school. So could you enlighten me as to what takes place at the school assembly nowadays?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I think that this is simply the arrangement that happens at the Academy School, which was where I was doing a week's worth of assemblies for all of the year groups. I mean, normally in the school day, between sort of 8:30 and 9 o'clock before lessons start, the students are in their year groups, and that's when they have quite a lot of their personal education with their form tutors. But every day, one of the year groups comes into the hall for a formal assembly. So I think the pattern was on Monday it was the year 11s, other ones who are keen to leave, and then year 10s, year 7 and 8s together, and then a day off, and then on Fridays it's the year 9s. That's sort of from 15 down to 11.
Okay.
So you probably in an average morning got between 80 and 100 young people, and fairly traditionally they sit in rows, and you stand at the front with the aid of a PowerPoint to try and interest them. And I have to say, this week the young people have been exceptionally not only well behaved but engaging and interesting. I suppose I have a bit of an advantage. I sort of see a lot of them during the week at the bridge and in the school, so you get a lot of kind of smiley faces, and that helps you to feel a bit less nervous. I shared the assemblies with the deputy head. We sort of did a double act, and what we basically did this week with the aid of a PowerPoint was to take the theme of self-esteem in good times and bad. So a typical assembly would often address a general kind of moral theme or a personal theme, not necessarily a religious theme. And the aim this week was to try and recognise that at the root of a lot of young people's challenges is a lack of self-esteem and a kind of poor feeling about themselves. So that very often when they feel rubbish themselves, they start harming themselves in drugs or alcohol abuse or self-harming and so on. Or if they feel good about themselves, they don't necessarily share that with other people. So that's really what we were trying to address. And the deputy head got them to think about and actually spell out what made them feel good and what made them feel bad. And we talked about sort of receiving bad news, getting bullying text messages, those kind of things, or just being bored in a classroom and that sort of thing. And as part of the assembly, I used the recent experience of a trip to Australia that my wife and I took, where we absolutely loved being out there. And I actually showed them a cap that I was given by the Melbourne Cricket Club when I had a day at the Test match, and was made to feel like a teenager myself. Very special. But I said to them, though that was good, the journey there and back was bad. It was awful. It was long. It was cramped. I hate the food on a plane. I felt ill. So, it was just an illustration of how you can have a bad experience and then something good and then, face up to something bad. And life is just like that. And so, really about how you work through that. You get about sort of 15, 16 minutes. Throughout the week, the different year groups engage with us and share that kind of message. And it's nice to feel that what we offer at the Bridge is about building self-confidence and self-esteem, harm reduction, relationships, all those key kind of personal things. And then the assembly normally finishes with any notices from the teachers or any kind of awards that need to be given out to the students. So about 20 minutes in all. And I have to say I really enjoyed it this week. And full marks to the young people for not just being polite, but engaging with the message. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, and there's no religious aspect of it.
Not to the typical assembly. That there may be acts of sort of remembrance or special occasions during the year, but as a normal routine, there would not only be no sort of Christian content, there would be no other religious content at all. It would be much more ethical.
I was just casting my mind back to when I was at school. As I say, the whole school went into assembly in the assembly hall in the morning, and all years went in together, and we all said a prayer and we all sang a hymn, and then we all went off to do lessons. Because if nowadays, of course, if each religion was given its own time for its own little bit, that's all you'd get. It'd be all day would be assembly, and then you'd go home at the end of it. Yeah. Yes, I wondered if it had been taken out of it.
No, I mean, there's no. You're not debarred from any kind of thing. And if people ask me, I'm quite open about the fact that I'm a Christian. But in the assembly context, when you've got the privilege of speaking to a group of young people, then I think you have to be fair and share a kind of general message of some sort that affects them, and that's what we try to do.
It's more now a communication tool than it was in my day, seen as a punishment almost.
Yeah.
You had to go to assembly, you couldn't not.
Yeah.
And but now it's used to communicate
yeah.
other things.
I'm not sure all of them are delighted to be there, but they're okay, and it's a good opportunity.
Well, that's great, and thanks for clearing that up for me, Mike, because I've long wondered about it. And if I ask my grandchildren, what do you do in assembly? They say, "Oh, Grandad, you don't want to know." Thanks once again, Mike.
Okay, my pleasure.
Cheers now. It's recipe time now, and this week we've got 3 recipes for you, so it's a bit of a bonus. They're all very quick ones and nice and simple to do, and ideal for this wintry weather that we're having at the moment. And welcome over to the kitchen. Well, our first recipe for today is lentil soup with mushrooms. This will take about 20 minutes to prepare, about half an hour to cook, and it will serve 4. And this is what we need. We need 15 ml of olive oil, 1 large onion peeled and finely chopped, 250 grams of smoked pork rashers or bacon slices, whichever you prefer, 2 garlic cloves peeled and chopped, a small handful of fresh parsley, also nicely chopped, 150 grams of button mushrooms, and they need to be quartered, 250 grams of soup lentils of your choice, and they need to be rinsed, of course, 1 celery stick sliced, some stock or water, lemon to taste, and mint leaves to taste. And this is what we do. Heat the olive oil in a large heavy base pan over a medium heat, and tip in the onions, celery, pork or bacon rashers, the garlic and the parsley. Now just saute this for 5 minutes before adding the mushrooms, and then saute for another 5 minutes after you've added the mushrooms. Add the lentils and cover with the water or the stock. Allow them to simmer for about 30 minutes. Season the soup and add a squeeze of lemon juice and mint to taste. And you can serve this with some nice crusty bread and some real strong cheddar cheese, and that'll make a lovely hearty lunch or possibly even a dinner. And our next recipe this week is also a soup, and it's Spanish bean and chorizo soup.
Takes about 20 minutes to prepare. Cooking time about 1.5 hours, and this will serve 4 to 6. And this is what we need. 250 grams of borlotti beans, and they need to be soaked overnight. 300 ml of olive oil. 1 to 2 medium onions, peeled and chopped. 400 grams of potatoes, peeled and chopped into bite-sized sort of chunks. 100 grams of cabbage, and that needs to be shredded. 1 litre of chicken or vegetable stock, depending on your preference. 2 chorizo sausages, about 200 grams, thereabouts, and that needs to be sliced. Some sea salt and black pepper to taste, and some paprika. And this is what we do. Drain and rinse the beans and tip into a large pot. Cover with water and bring to the boil, skimming off any of that nasty froth stuff that comes up with a slotted spoon. Turn down the heat and simmer for 30 minutes or until just cooked but still firm. Now, drain all that off and set it aside. Reheat the pot over a medium heat and add the olive oil, and saute the onions, potatoes and cabbage and season them well. Add the beans and the stock and cook for a further 30 minutes, adding the chorizo slices for the last 10 minutes. Now just ladle that into some bowls and serve with a good sprinkling of paprika and maybe a dash of salt and pepper. Lovely tasty dish, Spanish bean and chorizo soup. And our final quick recipe for this week is lamb chops and roast tomatoes. Lovely, eh? Right, what we need is a yellow or red pepper, depending on which football team you support or which colour you prefer. 4 lamb chops, some onions, depending on how much you like your onions. Garlic, same applies. A 400 gram punnet of cherry tomatoes and 2 dessert spoons of tomato puree. Now take the red or yellow pepper and cut it into thin slices and scatter it over the lamb, but put the lamb in a roasting tin first. Add the thinly sliced onions too, and once again depends how much you like onions, how many you use. Same with the chops really, I suppose it depends how big your family is to how many you need, but I should think 4 chops would do 2 of you. Finally chop the clove of garlic and scatter this over the chops as well. Add the contents of the punnet of cherry tomatoes, add a little salt and fresh pepper to taste, add 2 dessert spoonfuls of tomato puree to half a litre of boiling water, and add 1 teaspoon of Marmite if you want a little bit more zing in it, and pour this over the top of everything. And place the tin in a preheated oven on gas mark 5 at 190 degrees centigrade or 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 35 minutes or until the meat is well cooked and to your taste, because some people like lamb pink and some people don't. I personally don't. Anyway, that's all a matter of taste, and you can serve up some carrots and greens and some mashed potato. That'll go down well with it. And that's it. That's the final one for this week. So that's you set so that you don't starve to death until we come back. And of course these recipes can be found on the website, which is www.manhoodradio.com. Now you've had your lunch and you've got a nice cosy warm glow about you, it's time to get out in the garden. As most of you will know that have listened to me before, I'm not the keenest gardener in the world, but there are jobs that have to be done this time of the year, although I can't think for the life of me why you'd want to go out there in the cold and the rain and what have you. But nonetheless, the garden doesn't stop growing, thankfully, and there are plenty of jobs to do. Now, one of the first jobs you can be doing this time of year, if you're thinking of putting any new lawns down, and I've got to consider doing mine, even though it's only been done a couple of years ago, but it's a good time to prepare the soil for that now. So if you're going to put new lawns down in the spring, start raking the soil and breaking it up and getting it a nice fine till. But do remember to cover it, because if you don't cover it, come the spring when it all starts to grow, they'll be full of weeds. Seeds have been dropped by the birds and stuff over the winter, so don't forget to cover it up. And another job you can do around the lawn is cut back the lawn edges, and that gives your garden a nice crisp look come the spring. I do love to see lawn edges done properly. I've always thought that a lawn is only a lawn if it has the edges done. If it doesn't have the edges done, it's just grass. But anyway, that's just my opinion. And also, if you've taken the trouble to cover your plants up for the winter and you've put some nice fleece around them or bubble wrap or whatever you use, or just take the time to go around and make sure that all these are still in place, because sometimes the wind gets up under them and lifts them up a bit or folds the ends up on them, and then you find that we get a frost and whatever's underneath it not really very well protected,
and you end up paying the price for not checking them. So just do that. Now, if you've got pansies, and I love to see pansies in the gardens or in the boxes and window boxes and stuff, but sometimes they're affected by like a mildew, a black spot. So go around and take the leaves off of those if they're affected, because if you don't, they won't be any good. And if they're too bad, just dig them out and throw them in the bin and get yourself some new ones, because pansies are never very expensive, and these are going to be more trouble than they're worth if you leave them like that. And if you've got a kitchen garden, well, there's still stuff you can be doing there, especially if you're growing your own veg, and quite a few people have started to do that recently. If you're growing your own veg, you should still have a few Brussels or parsnips and other winter vegetables about, and it's time to start harvesting those. So get those in, and they'll see you through for the next month or so. If you've got apples and pear trees, well, they can be pruned, even at this time of year. Even in a frost, you can prune apple and pear trees. It doesn't do them much damage. So you can get on and do that. So there's still plenty to do. You can sow lettuces and radishes and round carrots and spinach, and you do that. Put them on your windowsill in your garage or in your conservatory. Make sure they don't get too dried out in the conservatories, because a lot of people tend to have the conservatories heated, and then consequently the soil dries out and you're a waste of time having them there. But just take a bit of care, check them up, make sure they're all right. If you're lucky enough to have a greenhouse, well, you can grow them on in the greenhouse, but and then plant them out in late February and under a fleece or a cloche or that sort of thing, just to give them a bit of protection. And ideally, you want to rotate your crops a bit. I know good keen gardeners will know that already, but people that may be just starting out to do this sort of stuff, well, you don't want to be planting the same stuff in the same spot every year. You really need to leave about 2 years between planting in the same spot again. So, if you planted potatoes in that spot this year, well, don't plant them there for another couple of years. Move them somewhere else in the garden and put something else in their place. So that'll take care of that. Now, as I say, if you're lucky enough to have a greenhouse, well, make sure you open the vents, because when it's mild, if it's a mild day, and it's been fairly mild up to recently, although it's starting to get a bit colder at the minute, and that'll just keep your plants frost-free, and that'll reduce the humidity in there and stop them suffering with fungus and that sort of stuff. And make sure you clear leaves and moss and twigs and stuff from gutters on the shed and greenhouse roofs to make sure they keep them draining well. Otherwise, the water builds up in there, not very pleasant at all. Right, well, that's it for this month's gardening tips. I hope they've been of some use to you, and we'll be back again next month with some more.
The Weather Report.
And the weather for this week up until Sunday looks a bit like this. Well, Tuesday is going to be probably the coldest day of the week. A high of 4 degrees and a low of -1. Humidity at 86% and a wind at 8 miles an hour coming from the northeast. Wednesday, sunshine. Temperatures warming just a little bit, up to 6 degrees with a low of 1 degree. Humidity 85% and winds at 9 miles an hour. Thursday, sunshine once again and a little bit warmer still. 7 degree high, 4 degree low, 82% humidity, and the wind speed picking up a little bit to 13 miles an hour. Now Friday, well, there's a 40% chance of rain on Friday, but it's warming up. It's going to be 8 degrees with a low of only 7. Humidity 88% as you would expect with rain, and the wind picking up to 17 miles an hour but coming round from the southeast. On Saturday, just a 30% chance of rain, humidity way up to 92%, temperatures high of 11, low of 7, and the wind dropping back to 8 miles an hour. And on Sunday, well, Sunday's going to be a nice warm day, relatively, 11 degrees with a low of 8, humidity 97%, and a wind speed of 8 miles an hour. And that's the weather for the coming week. And that's about it for this week. Just leaves me to say thank you to our researcher Jill Barnes, to our producer John Fletcher. And this is Keith Barnes saying thanks for joining us. Make it a habit. Bye for now.